Morning. Committee on Parole called to order today. It's Tuesday, January the 3rd, 8:34 a.m. My name is Brennan Kelsey, along with Bonnie Jackson and Cheryl Knox will be your panel. Staff and support seated at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. With staff and support, please introduce yourself.
That's my name. Very good.
John Bosher. Frank. All right, our remote location is Raymond LaBorde. With staff and support at Raymond LaBorde, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Kelsey. Ward Marcus Myers.
Morning, Ward.
Raven Heath classification. Alyssa Joshua records.
All right, please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
Johnny Collins, 118051.
All right, Mr. Collins, here are the introductions. Will be your parole panel. We'll ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
Johnny Collins, DOC number 118051. You're a fourth class offender. Parole eligibility date 6/14/2023. Good time date 8/27/2048. Full term date 6/26/2054. 52-year, 2-month, 2-day sentence for manslaughter, attempt armed robbery, attempted second-degree murder, second-degree battery. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, how old are you, sir?
53.
How long you been incarcerated?
20.
20 years on the 52 years. And do you have a GED, a high school
No.
diploma?
No, sir.
Worked on it?
I was in school, but I got out of school.
You just stopped doing it? You wasn't able to do the literacy?
Oh, no, sir. I got out because I was having family problems.
Okay.
My mom was having open heart surgery.
Okay, so you hadn't tried to get back, so you quit and then you hadn't tried to get back.
Yes, sir. I tried to get back in 2021,
Okay.
but was put on backlog.
Okay. When's your last disciplinary write-up?
2019.
What was that for?
That was for fighting.
Fighting, what you fighting for? Been down long enough to know you should be fighting though.
Yes, sir.
What kind of programs have you taken?
Well, currently I'm in Living in Balance, AANA, victim awareness. I started victim awareness Friday.
You have a drug alcohol problem?
Yes, sir.
What was your drug of choice?
Marijuana and alcohol.
And have you taken Cage of Rage or anger management?
Yes, sir. I've taken Cage of Rage.
And you're working on victim awareness and you're going to NAA.
Yes, sir.
What's your plans if you would be released? Where would you go? What would you do?
Well, sir, my plans would be to get in contact with some type of support group and
How to do something? You're just not sure? You don't really have a plan just yet?
yes, sir.
You're working on that, though. Gordon, you got any input for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Kelsey. Had a long conversation with Johnny the other day. You know, his record, as you can see, he had an extensive conduct history when he was first incarcerated. He's done much better in the last few years, and his record reflected that he didn't need substance abuse, but he admitted to me that he did have a substance abuse problem. He had a problem with alcohol. As a matter of fact, he admitted that he was intoxicated when he committed these crimes. So That's why we got him into these classes. He's just now in phase 1 of living in balance. So I do definitely recommend that he complete both phases of that. I also recommend that these programs and
Okay. All right. Thank you, Warren. Appreciate it. Would you like to make a statement, Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to apologize to the victim and their family for this heinous crime that I committed, and I take full. No?
Okay, I hear you again. You said you take full responsibility.
Yes, sir.
All right, we just kind of have a little cut in and cut out, but we can hear you. So it's panel prepared to vote. I'll vote first. Mr. Collins, sounds like you head in the right direction. You're trying to do right, do some things good. You got a warden there that's there to help you. I'm not ready today to let you go based on your victim opposition, law enforcement opposition. I think you need more more time to take some really good programs and get in that living in balance, do both of those, take the victim awareness, take as many classes as you can. I would encourage you to work on your GED as well. But for me, based on the nature of the crime, based on the opposition expressed, your 4th class offender, my vote is to deny. Ms. Renata?
Mr. Collins, I do agree based on the severity of your crimes, your history of violence and lack of programming. I'm glad to see that you have been able to enroll in some programs, but lacking completion of those programs, my vote today is going to be to deny.
Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Collins, I'm encouraged by the fact that you haven't had any write-up since 2019. But I'm discouraged by the fact that that was for fighting. And all of your crimes are for crimes of violence. So I think we need to do a little bit more work on programming and to get some understanding of why you continue to lash out the way that you do. So working hard, stay out of trouble. But today my vote is to deny.
All right, you have 3 votes to deny. Today, your parole's been denied. Good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Well, that was, of course, much quicker.
Okay, that was me back in January of 3rd, 2022. To think that it was such a long time ago, but not that long at all. Now we're August 2nd, 2023, but there, Miss Jackson with the mask on. I've been doing some tidying up on the channel, and I came onto this and saw that I hadn't published it, and I had written notes to myself, which was go over the records and do it again. And the reason that I have those notes is because this man is a monster, and the idea that he is even up for parole is a bit disturbing. I saw that it was they knew they were going to deny him, but the idea that he would even have encouragement that if he completes programs, he might have a chance. The idea that the DA wasn't there, I mean, I guess they knew he wouldn't get out, but how do you know for certain? Mistakes can happen. But I'll tell you, he was out on parole for red rum when he committed this crime, and he was out on parole for just a short amount of time. On June 13, 2003, Denise Jackson was walking in a wooded area between her residence and a store. The defendant attacked her, beating her severely about the head and body with a board and a bottle. The victim claimed that the attack was unprovoked. The defendant asserted that the victim made a comment to him which caused him to attack her. The victim suffered severe disfigurement as a result of the attack. A man and woman passing by the area heard the victim screaming and came to her aid. The defendant fled the scene. It gets worse. The victim and the female witness both identified the defendant. So he was sentenced to 40 years, which I don't know. Like he took a plea deal, but they sentenced him to 40. This says he's a 52-year sentence, which I guess he was finishing up his second sentence. And they figured that's enough to keep him in there for life, assuming he doesn't get parole. But they go through his long record. And here it is. In 1988, the defendant was charged with second-degree red rum and was allowed to plead guilty to manslaughter. He was sentenced to 21 years. So here's a strange example of how in 1988 they gave him a plea deal of 21 years. And here he was sentenced to 25 for armed robbery, which is interesting. They give a shorter sentence for armed robbery. But he was paroled in October 2003. Basically, paroled at the time. And he committed this offense 8 months after being released. So he red rums someone, gets out after 25 years. And 8 months into this, he unprovoked attacks and disfigures a woman and would have red rummed her if he wasn't interrupted. And then he's out on parole 20 years later again. It's like literally repeating itself. Now he's not out on parole, he got denied, but had he been released, this is someone who cannot be rehabilitated. This is someone who needs to be in prison. But go get your GED. That would be a great help. Can't make it up. I mean, I don't think they'll ever release him, but the idea that he can keep applying for parole now and that maybe it would somehow slip through if he takes enough programs is pretty scary. The court noted that the defendant was not married and had no dependents. He dropped out of 10th grade and was unemployed. The court found the defendant to be a dangerous person who needed to be removed from the public and incarcerated for a lengthy period of time. I can agree with that. They also noted what it did to the victims. The injuries were dramatic. Beaten over the head with a board and a bottle. Her life was saved by 2 people passing by who heard her screaming. She had to have her head shaved. She required 6 to 7 staples in her head, 30 to 40 stitches in her face to close her wounds. Her children were afraid of her and called her a monster for several months. That's how disfigured she was. The victim stayed in her house for 3 months after this attack, and she is afraid to be outside after dark. She has large scars on her forehead and a bald spots on the side of her head. She may be unemployable due to her disfigurement. The defendant tried to red rum her for $3. 3. Mitigating factors that he agreed to plead guilty. Aggravating factors that he committed this shortly after being paroled for manslaughter and armed robbery. Further, he probably would have red rummed her if he had not been interrupted. Why is this man? And you gotta. I know it's tough to say how this stuff works. It's like you give too harsh of a sentence, and then you blame the system. But then in this case, how could they just say, let me give you a plea deal for taking someone's life? But we just saw him come up for parole. And I don't know, maybe we'll see him again in a few years. If we do check, I will upload it with the with this hearing, and it goes into this new playlist I made called The Return of. That's the playlist, so go check it out. I'll put a link there. But you wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it, and that's why we have this channel. So please do help the channel grow, do the YouTube thing, and with that, I'll let you go.